Hey everyone! In Throne and Liberty, they aren't traditional classes like you find in most MMORPGs. Instead, it's all about the duo weapon system, which might leave some of you wondering how to pick your playstyle. In this video, I'm going to break it all down by associating these weapon combos with the classes you're more familiar with from other games. I'll be covering different playstyles with tank, support and DPS categories by giving you the pros and cons of each build, along with some footage of the combos you can expect. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm not a pro with every type of weapon, so this guide is more about giving you a flavour of each playstyle rather than the detailed rotations. Alright, let's jump into it. Starting with the tank category. The traditional tank. You are literally a meat shield. Using a sword and shield along with a greatsword, if you want to be the one standing between your team and the enemy, soaking up damage and dishing out some of your own, this is the build to go. The pros. This is the tankiest build possible in the game, giving you unmatched durability. You have plenty of gap closers and movement abilities, making it easy to engage enemies and control the battlefield. The build offers high amounts of crowd control and solid damage, both single target and AOE. The cons. The playstyle isn't the flashiest. If you're looking for big explosive abilities, this might not be for you. It is also very gear dependent, so if you're under geared, you might feel like a wet paper towel instead of a steel wall. You may have to swipe the credit card to stay strong. The Bruiser build is very similar to the traditional tank, using the same sword and shield with greatsword combo, however it leans more into the offensive stats and abilities. Think of it as a tank that punches back hard. Pros. Shares many of the strengths of a traditional tank: high durability, good CC and solid damage. The focus on the fence stats increase the chance of soloing enemies, making you more of a threat in smaller skirmishes. The cons. You'll sacrifice some party support skills and CCs for that extra damage, which might not always be worth it in group content. Like the traditional tank, it's gear dependent and you may need to invest in your equipment to make this build really shine. The Paladin build combines the durability of the sword and shield with the support and healing capabilities of the wand and tome. This makes you basically unkillable and a cornerstone in PvP battles. The pros. Extremely tanky with self-sustain, making you a fortress on the battlefields. You have AOE CC abilities and supportive heals, making you invaluable in teamfights. One of the strongest builds in large-scale PvP scenarios. Cons. Damage isn't very high, so you won't be dishing out as much pain as you'll be absorbing. Almost no movement or gap closing abilities makes you more stationary. Very cooldown dependent, so timing is everything with this build. The Evasion Tank is for players who want to be agile and hard to hit, using a fast playstyle with a sword and shield and dagger. This build is all about dodging attacks and striking back quickly. Pros. High evasion makes you incredibly hard to hit, arguably the tankiest if nothing can land a hit on you. Stealth allows you to reposition and engage enemies from advantageous positions. Fast attacks and flashy movements, dashing in and out of combat, makes this build feel dynamic and exciting. Not as durable in terms of raw damage absorption compared to the other builds, so you need to rely on your agility. Struggles against high hit opponents who can cut through your evasion. More reliant on hitting your rotations perfectly to maximize damage and survivabilities. Now, here's a special mention for those who want to play something a bit out of the ordinary. The Ranger Tank. This build uses sword and shield paired with bow, making you a surprising durable CC bot on the front lines. The pros. You get the tankiness of the sword and shield combined with the recovery, cleanse, shield and self-healing abilities from the bow, which makes you surprisingly durable. With the ranged snares and knockups, you can control the battlefield effectively even while holding the front line. This build shines in group play, where you can support your team by keeping enemies at bay and disrupting their advances. The cons. Unfortunately, this build doesn't have a clear role in PvE scenarios, making a niche pick for those who love PvP. It's heavily reliant on group play, so if you're running solo, you might struggle to make the most of this setup. Lacks movement abilities, which means you'll be more stationary, which can be a disadvantage in more mobile fights. Next, let's move on to the support category. The Priest build is your go-to full-on healer, using the wand and tome for powerful healing and the bow for added support. If you're all about keeping your allies alive, this is the build for you. Pros. You have the strongest heals in the game, making you essential in any group. A good amount of crowd control helps you manage tricky situations when enemies get too close. Plenty of shields to protect yourself when you're being targeted, which will happen often. The cons. Low damage output means you won't be doing much on the offensive side. You're the number one target for everyone, so be prepared to be focused in every fight. Low mobility makes it difficult to escape without support of your teammates. The Healing Mage is a hybrid support build, combining decent healing abilities with the crowd control, survivability and damage potential of the staff. This build is great for players who want to do a bit of everything, wielding the wand and tome and the staff. The pros: decent heals with big mana pools mean you have near infinite sustain during fights. High amounts of CC and some escape options gives you ability to control the battlefield. You can dish out damage while supporting your teammates, making you versatile in combat. The cons: you are a jack of all trades, master of none, mid-tier in both healing and in DPS. As a support, you're often targeted from enemies and quite squishy, so positioning is key. Not much mobility means you'll always have to rely on CC and your teammates to stay safe. The Sleep Bomber build is a hybrid between a support and an assassin. You'll be using the wand and tome and dagger. Your main job is to crowd control large groups of enemies with sleep spells and take them down with damage over time abilities. Pros: one of the most broken class in large scale PvP, capable of turning the tides of the battle with a single click of a button. Extremely rewarding when you successfully CC large clumps of enemies, setting up your team for easy kills. Stealth allows you to sneak into ideal positions and target valuable enemies with your CC. The cons: low damage output means you're reliant on your teams to finish your enemies, which basically is also useless in PvE scenarios. You're very squishy, and once you execute your CC, you're as good as dead if caught. Highly reliant on team play, so it's not a good choice if you're planning on playing solo. Hey everyone, just a quick note. If you're enjoying what I do or you found this video useful, it will mean a lot if you could hit that like button and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future Throne of Liberty videos I've got planned. Thanks again, and I appreciate every one of you. Let's move on to our DPS categories. The Hunter build is your classic long range sniper, using a bow and dagger to dominate from a distance while staying elusive in combat. If you love stealthy, high survivability gameplay, this one's for you. Pros: as a long range sniping class, you have high survivability and decent mobility. The ability to stealth and reposition if caught makes you feel like Robin Hood sneaking through the woods. This build excels in small skirmishes with good outplay potential if played well. The cons: dagger skills are great for survival, but they don't add much to your DPS. Some parts of your rotation can be in melee range, which can be risky. Not the best options for high-end PvE content. The Archer build uses bow and X-bow for that mid-range archery experience, focusing on rapid fire and consistent damage. If you ever want to feel like Legolas, this is the build for you. The pros: you are a true range bow user, able to execute all combos from a distance. Rapid firing arrows make you feel like a true archer, and it's amazing to look at in action. Multiple cleansers allow you to help allies and remove CC from yourself. Cons: with no mobility, if you are caught, you're pretty much dead. Using crossbow abilities require you to move closer, which can be dangerous. You are a squishy character, so positioning is everything. The AOE Bomber utilizes crossbow and dagger. This is a high risk, high reward build that excels in burst damage and AOE spins, making it one of the flashiest and highest APM playstyles in the game. The pros: flashy gameplay with high APM keeps you engaged and on your toes. High damage both in AOE and single target makes this a good build in PvE. The ability to melt clumps of enemies with spin to win moves is incredibly satisfying. The cons: very squishy and prone to CC, so you're vulnerable if caught. Requires high level skill to play well and maximize damage. Extremely gear dependent. Without good gear, you're just tickling your enemies. The Assassin is all about high mobility and powerful single target DPS, using the greatsword and dagger to take down key targets quickly and efficiently. The pros: you're durable with high levels of damage output, making it a strong contender in melee combat. The best at single target assassination, perfect for picking off key targets in a fight. High mobility with dashes and stealth allows you to position yourselves on the flanks. Cons: cooldown dependent. Once your skills are used, you feel vulnerable. Being in melee range without the tankiness of the sword and shield can be risky. Very dependent on hitting your rotations perfectly to kill efficiently. The Artillery Mage is a long range magic build using the staff and the bow, ideal for casting big spells from a distance. This build excels in large scale PvP where it can unleash massive AoE damage. The pros: Almost every spell you cast will do damage, making you a constant threat. Highest AOE damage output in the game, great for hitting large groups of enemies. One of the highest DPS classes, making it a must in PvE content. The cons: weak in small skirmishes with few to no escape or defensive options. Requires excellent positioning to avoid getting caught out. You'll be a prime target due to your high damage outputs and low defenses. The machine gun caster uses staff and crossbow to become a rapid fire spellcaster who excels in delivering quick bursts of magic damage. This build is visually appealing as it is effective. Pros: high consistent damage uptime from rapid spell casts with pockets of bursts. Visually appealing gameplay with constant barrage of spells flying out. Self-cleanse allows you to escape from enemies or remove debuffs. Cons: squishy character with no real defensive options or durability. No movement or escape abilities make you an easy picking if caught. High skill cap due to the need to track passive stacking and manage rotations. The Combat Mage is a fast-paced, mobility-focused build that blends magic spells with the agility of the dagger. This build is all about outplaying your opponent with quick strikes and smart positioning. Pros: rewarding playstyle that utilizes both range and melee skills to quickly finish off your foes. High survivability and reset potential with stealth and CC abilities. Stealth allows you to get into favourable positions before unleashing a barrage of spells. The cons: high skill ceiling requires precise play and positioning to be effective. Lower DPS compared to the other mage builds due to the increase in survivability makes it less favoured in PvE dungeons. Squishy if caught off guard or CC'd, so you need to stay alert at all times. I hope this guide has helped you get a clearer idea of what playstyle or class you might want to try in Throne and Liberty. Of course, there are much more nuances to each build and plenty of unexplored builds that I haven't mentioned yet, so if you're trying something different or have your own unique setup, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below and let me know what class and build you'll be playing on global launch. If there's a build I didn't cover, share it too. I'm always interested in hearing new ideas and playstyles. As always, I appreciate you watching and sticking with me to the end. Thank you so much for your support, and don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that bell icon for more Throne and Liberty content in the future. See you next time.